The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people had looked up at the night sky and dreamed of what waited beyond. In the year 2247, those dreams finally came true. But nobody could have known how quickly dreams would turn into nightmares. Ambassador stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, Earth's finest spacecraft. Behind her stood 20 of humanity's greatest minds, scientists, diplomats, and military advisors. They had traveled for 6 months to reach this moment. Through the massive viewing window, she could see the nexus of eternity, a space station so large it made Earth's moon look small. "It's beautiful," whispered Dr. James Wright, the ship's chief scientist. His voice shook with emotion. Nodded but said nothing. She was too nervous to speak. Today, humanity would meet its neighbors in the galaxy. Today, everything would change. The Galactic Concordat had ruled the Milky Way for over 100,000 years. 12 ancient alien species had built an empire that stretched across millions of star systems. When they detected human radio signals decades ago, they sent a single message: "Come to the Nexus. We will judge if you are worthy." Worthy, that word had haunted for the entire journey. The Prometheus docked at the station, and armed guards escorted the human delegation through corridors made of strange metals that glowed with inner light. Notice that no alien they passed would look at them directly. Some turned away. Others made gestures she did not understand. The council chamber was a vast circular room with seats rising up like a stadium. Thousands of aliens from all 12 species sat watching as the humans walked to the center platform. Felt like an insect under a microscope. At the highest seat sat the leader of the Concordat. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. His eyes were completely black, showing no emotion. Beside him floated the archivists of beings of pure energy contained in crystal shells. They were said to remember everything that had ever happened in the galaxy. "Humans of Earth," the spoke, his voice cold as space itself. "We have studied you. We have watched your planet for 200 years. We have seen your history, your wars, your nature. Now we will deliver our judgment." Stepped forward. "Great, we come in peace. We wish only to join the galactic community, to trade, to learn, to—" "Silence." The word cut through the air like a blade. "You will speak when permitted." His face burned with shame, but she stepped back. Around her, she could hear her colleagues breathing fast. Fear filled the room like a poison. One of the archivists floated forward. Its crystal shell pulsed with blue light as it spoke. "We have analyzed human genetics. Your species changes too quickly. You evolve and adapt at a rate we have never seen. This makes you unstable, unpredictable, dangerous." Another archivist joined in. "We have studied human history. In just 10,000 years, you have fought over 15,000 wars. You have killed billions of your own kind. No species in Concordat records has shown such violence against itself." The raised one of his 4 hands. "The Council has voted. The decision is final. Humanity is classified as a Category 7 quarantine species. You are unfit for integration. You are too dangerous to be allowed among civilized peoples." Felt her heart stop. "What does this mean?" "It means," they said slowly, "that you will be contained. You will never leave your star system again. You will never contact other species. You will live and die within your own small corner of space, away from those you might harm." "You can't do this," Dr. Wright shouted. "We traveled all this way, we came in peace." Guards moved toward the humans, weapons raised, grabbed Wright's arm and pulled him back. "Please," she begged, all dignity forgotten. "Give us a chance. We can change, we can prove ourselves." The black eyes showed nothing. "The Concordat does not give chances. We have existed for 100,000 years because we remove threats before they grow. Humanity is a threat. This discussion is over." The humans were dragged back to their ship, fought against the guards until one of them struck her across the face. Blood ran from her lip as she was thrown onto the Prometheus. as the ship undocked and began its journey home, stood at the rear viewing window. She watched as thousands of Concordat vessels took positions around Sol system, her solar system, her home. Then the veil activated. It started as a shimmer, like heat rising from hot ground. Then it grew, spreading outward in all directions. A wall of energy expanded until it completely surrounded the sun and all its planets. Earth, Mars, Jupiter, everything humanity had ever known was now trapped inside an invisible prison. The Veil of Silence, that's what the aliens called it. No ship could pass through it. No signal could penetrate it. Humanity was now completely alone. Recorded her final message, knowing it would never reach anyone beyond the barrier. Her hands trembled as she spoke. This is Ambassador of the UES Prometheus. The Galactic Concordat has rejected humanity. They have sealed us inside our own solar system. They called us dangerous. They called us unfit. She paused, wiping tears from her eyes. They've abandoned us. We are alone. She ended the recording and sat in the darkness of her cabin. Outside, the stars still shone, but now they were just lights, forever out of reach. When the Prometheus finally reached Earth 3 months later, chaos had already begun. News of the Concordat's judgment had spread across the planet. Riots erupted in major cities. Governments blamed each other. Old hatreds, buried for generations, rose to the surface like poison. Watch the fires burning across continents from orbit. Humanity, rejected by the galaxy, was now tearing itself apart. "What do we do now?" asked Dr. Wright, standing beside her. Thought of the cold eyes. She thought of how casually he had condemned 8 billion people to eternal isolation. She thought of how certain he had been that humans were nothing. "We survive," she said quietly. "We survive and we grow and we prove them wrong. They think they've seen the worst of humanity." Her hands formed fists at her sides. "They have no idea what we're capable of when we're pushed to the edge." Somewhere in her heart, a fire began to burn, a fire that would one day spread across the entire galaxy. The first 10 years after the Veil were the worst in human history. People called them the Decade of Tears. Nations that had been allies for centuries turned against each other. Food became scarce as global trade collapsed. Wars broke out across every continent. Nuclear weapons destroyed 3 major cities before the remaining governments finally agreed to stop. By 2260, 2 billion people had died. Earth was broken, bleeding, and hopeless. But humans are strange creatures. They break, but they do not stay broken. It started in small ways. A doctor in Mumbai shared her medicine with a hospital in Cairo. A farmer in Brazil sent seeds to dying fields in Russia. Scientists from enemy nations began talking in secret, sharing knowledge instead of weapons. Then, in the ruins of the United Nations building in New York, something miraculous happened. Leaders from every surviving nation gathered together. They looked at each other across tables that had once been used for arguments and threats. This time, nobody argued. "We are all that we have," said President of the African Union. "The galaxy has forgotten us. If we keep fighting each other, we will die, but if we stand together." She didn't need to finish. Everyone understood. That day, the Terran Unification Council was born. For the first time in all of human history, Earth had one government, one purpose, one dream. The flags of old nations were folded and stored in museums. A new flag rose, blue and green for Earth, surrounded by stars that humanity would one day reach. Ambassador, now old and gray, lived just long enough to see the signing ceremony. She died 3 days later with a smile on her face. Her final words were simple: "Don't forget. Don't ever forget what they did to us." Humanity did not forget. The TUC faced an impossible task. Trapped inside the solar system, they had no access to alien technology, alien resources, or alien knowledge. Everything they built, they would have to build themselves. But the Concordat had made a terrible mistake. When they created the veil, tiny amounts of energy leaked through the barrier. It was meant to be nothing, just background noise. Human scientists, however, were very good at listening to noise. Dr. Sarah, granddaughter of Chinese and American immigrants, led the team that cracked the veil's secrets. She spent 20 years studying those tiny energy leaks. She filled notebook after notebook with equations. Her colleagues called her crazy. She didn't care. In 2285, she finally understood. The veil isn't just a wall, she announced to the TUC Science Council. It's a roadmap. The energy patterns show us how to bend space itself. The aliens who built this prison accidentally taught us how to escape it. Within 10 years, humanity had built its first quantum-fold drive. It was faster than anything the Concordat had ever created. Ships using this drive could cross the galaxy in weeks instead of years. The aliens had spent 100,000 years perfecting their technology. Humans did it better in a single generation. But the TUC was patient. They knew they were not ready to face the Concordat. Not yet. Instead, they focused on building. Mars became humanity's second home. Domed cities rose across its red surface, filled with millions of people. Europa, Jupiter's icy moon, was hollowed out and turned into the largest shipyard ever constructed. Titan's orange clouds hid factories that worked day and night. Admiral Sarah's grandson was born on a ship traveling between Earth and Mars. He grew up hearing stories about the Concordat, about the veil, about the day humanity was cast out. Those stories filled him with a cold, patient anger. By his 40th birthday, he commanded the most powerful military force humanity had ever assembled, the Reclamation Armada. 10,000 warships, hidden in the shadows of asteroids and moons, waiting for the order to fly. "We're not building weapons," told his crews. "We're building keys to unlock our prison." While built ships, a young engineer named built something even more important. Born in Lagos, Nigeria, she had always been curious about things that didn't work. While other children played games, she took apart machines to understand why they broke. At age 32, she discovered something that changed everything. "The veil isn't perfect," she explained to the TUC High Command. Her dark eyes shone with excitement. "It vibrates at a specific frequency. If we match that frequency exactly and push against it from every direction at once, it will shatter." The generals looked at each other. "You're saying we can break the barrier?" "I'm saying we can destroy it completely, but we'll only get one chance. If we fail, the Concordat will know we tried. They might do something worse." Admiral stepped forward. "Then we won't fail. How long do you need?" 5 years to build the equipment, 1 more year to test it, then we'll be ready." "You'll have everything you need," promised. The final years of preparation were tense. Humanity knew that something was coming, something huge. Children born after the veil had never known any other life. To them, the barrier was simply the edge of their world. But their parents and grandparents remembered a time before. They remembered hope. In 2350, the TUC made a decision. The next year would be humanity's moment of truth. Either they would break free or they would die trying. Stood on the bridge of the TUC unbroken, surrounded by her equipment. She had spent 6 years building the devices that now filled 3 cargo bays. Resonance generators, she called them. Machines that could sing the exact note needed to break the veil. Admiral's voice came through her communicator. "All ships are in position, 10,000 vessels standing by." Took a deep breath. "Admiral, if this doesn't work." "It will work," he said firmly. "I believe in you. Humanity believes in you." She looked out at the stars, stars she had never been able to visit, planets she had never been able to explore. The veil was invisible, but she knew it was there. She could almost feel it, pressing against her mind like a hand over her mouth. "They told us we were unfit," she whispered to herself. "They said we were too dangerous." A small smile crossed her face. They had no idea. She opened a channel to all ships. "This is Chief Science Officer. 104 years ago, the galaxy threw us away. Tomorrow, we're going to knock on their door. All ships begin final preparations. Tomorrow, the veil falls." Across the solar system, 10,000 crews cheered. Some cried. Some prayed. All of them knew that human history was about to change forever. The long dark was almost over. Dawn was coming. The morning of humanity's rebirth began in silence. 10,000 ships hung in the darkness near Neptune's orbit, their engines cold and quiet. Crews stood at their stations, hearts beating fast, hands trembling slightly. No one spoke. There was nothing left to say. Admiral sat in the command chair of the TUC Vengeance, the flagship of the Reclamation Armada. He was 67 years old now, his hair completely white, but his eyes burned with the fire of a much younger man. On his chest, he wore a small medal, a piece of metal from the original UES Prometheus, saved by his grandmother before she died. "All ships report ready," his first officer announced. Nodded slowly, "Put me through to the fleet." His face appeared on screens across every human vessel. Soldiers, pilots, engineers, and scientists all stopped to listen. 104 years ago, began, his voice steady, "the Concordat sealed us away like animals in a cage. They called us unfit. They called us dangerous. They said we would never amount to anything." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "Today we prove them wrong. Today we remind the galaxy that humanity does not break. We do not surrender. We do not give up. They threw us into the darkness and we learned to shine. Now let's show them what they created." Across the fleet, crews roared with approval. Some pounded their fists against walls. Others embraced their friends and loved ones. This was the moment generations had waited for. On the TUC Unbroken, powered up her resonance generators. Screens filled with data as the massive machines hummed to life. Sweat rolled down her forehead despite the cold air. "Generators at 60%, she reported. 70, 80, 90. The machines screamed with energy. Lights flickered across the ship. 100%, we're ready, Admiral." Took a deep breath. "All ships, activate your resonance amplifiers. Sync to Doctor's frequency." 10,000 ships began to sing. Not with voices, but with energy. A single pure note aimed at the invisible wall that had imprisoned humanity for over a century. The veil began to shake. Watched her instruments with wide eyes. "It's working. The barrier is destabilizing. Increase power to maximum." The note grew louder, stronger, more powerful. Ships strained against the force of their own weapons. Hull plates groaned. Engines overheated. Then, with a flash brighter than 1,000 suns, the veil of silence shattered. Fragments of energy scattered across space like broken glass. Where once there had been an invisible prison, now there was nothing but open sky. Stood slowly from his chair. Through the viewing window, he could see stars that no human had seen in over 100 years. "We're free," someone whispered. "No," replied. "We're just getting started. All ships engage quantum-fold drives, set course for Concordat space." Humanity poured into the galaxy like water through a broken dam. The Concordat detected them immediately. On the nexus of eternity, alarms screamed through corridors that had been quiet for 100,000 years. The son of the one who had condemned humanity rushed to the council chamber. "Impossible," he hissed when he saw the reports. "The veil cannot be broken. It has never been broken." An archivist floated beside him, its crystal shell flickering with panic. "The humans have done what no species has ever done. They have escaped quarantine. They are coming. Thousands of ships, moving faster than anything in our records." Thus 4 hands gripped his throne. "Prepare our fleets. We will crush them before they can." "Too late," another archivist interrupted. "They are already here." Outside the Nexus, the human fleet appeared from nowhere. Ships materialized out of empty space, surrounding the station like wolves around prey. But the humans did not attack. Instead, Admiral's face appeared on every screen in the Nexus. His voice echoed through chambers where humans had never been allowed to speak. "We are humanity," he announced. "We were cast out and told we were nothing. We were sealed in a cage and left to die, but we did not die, we grew stronger." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We have not come for revenge. We have not come to destroy you. We have come because we learned something during our imprisonment, something you never understood." The Concordat leaders watched in confusion. This was not what they expected. "We learned that strength is not about crushing those below you. It is about lifting them up. During our long exile, we became one people. We stopped fighting each other. We stopped hating each other. And now we offer that gift to the galaxy." Leaned forward. "We know you have slaves, species you call lesser beings. Species trapped just like we were, told they were unfit just like we were. Today we set them free." Before the Concordat could respond, human ships began moving to nearby star systems. Systems where enslaved species had been forced to serve the ancient powers for thousands of years. They were the first to be freed. They were insect-like beings with 6 legs and hard shells, bred for manual labor in Concordat mines. When human soldiers broke open their prison camps, they didn't know what to do. Freedom was a concept they had forgotten. A young human officer named James Wright, named after his ancestor who had been on the original Prometheus, approached their leader carefully. "You're free now," he said gently. "No one will hurt you again." The elder clicked her mandibles in confusion. Why would you help us? You do not know us." James smiled. "Because someone should have helped us. They didn't. We won't make the same mistake." Word spread quickly. The aquatic nereids broke free from the underwater prisons, where they had been forced to harvest rare minerals. The silicon-based escaped from the radioactive factories, where they had been worked to death for generations. One by one, these species joined humanity's cause. They called themselves the Free Worlds Coalition, an alliance built not on conquest, but on shared suffering and shared hope. Personally visited each freed species, offering them human technology without asking for anything in return. "Take it," she told the Nereid representatives. "Learn it, improve it, we're all equal now." The Nereid ambassador's large eyes filled with what might have been tears. "In 10,000 years of slavery, no one has ever shown us kindness. Why are you different?" Thought about her ancestors, about Earth, about the long years behind the veil. "Because we remember what it feels like to be alone. We remember what it feels like when nobody helps you. We decided that if we ever got free, we would be better than those who imprisoned us." Back on the Nexus, the watched his empire begin to crumble. Species that had served the Concordat for ages were now standing beside humans, looking at their former masters with new courage in their eyes. "This cannot be happening," he muttered. "They were supposed to be animals. They were supposed to be nothing." An elderly archivist floated beside him. "Perhaps," it said slowly, "we made an error in judgment." The black eyes narrowed with rage. "We do not make errors." But deep in his heart, he was beginning to wonder. The humans had escaped an unbreakable prison. They had crossed the galaxy in days. They had turned enemies into allies without firing a single shot. Maybe, just maybe, the Concordat had been wrong about humanity. And that thought terrified him more than any weapon ever could. The Concordat had ruled the galaxy for 100,000 years. In all that time, they had never lost a war. They had never even come close. They assembled the greatest fleet in galactic history. Ships from all 12 ancient species gathered at the Nexus, 2 million vessels carrying weapons that had destroyed civilizations. They stretched across space like an ocean of steel and fire. "The humans are vermin," they announced to his admirals. "They are young, weak, and foolish. Their little coalition of freed slaves cannot stand against our might. We will crush them so completely that the galaxy will forget they ever existed." His commanders cheered. They had no doubt about their victory. Admiral knew the truth. Humanity was outnumbered 50-1. Even with their advanced technology, even with the free world's coalition beside them, the math was simple and terrible. "We can't win a straight fight," he told his war council aboard the TUC Vengeance. "If we meet them head-on, we die." Studied the star maps carefully. "Then we don't fight straight, we fight human." Raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "The Concordat has followed the same military doctrine for 100,000 years. They're predictable. Every battle they've ever fought follows the same pattern: form lines, advance slowly, overwhelm with numbers." She pointed at the maps. "They've never faced an enemy who refuses to play by their rules." A smile crossed his weathered face. "Go on." "Our quantum fold drives are faster than anything they have. We can appear anywhere, strike hard, and vanish before they can respond. We don't fight their war. We make them fight ours." The War Council discussed the plan through the night. By morning, they had a strategy, one so strange and unpredictable that the Concordat would never see it coming. The first major battle took place at Prime, the of the species. The Concordat had gathered 500,000 ships to defend it. They formed their traditional lines and waited for the human attack. They waited for 3 days. Nothing happened. Then, at the exact moment when the ships were changing shifts, human vessels appeared behind their formation, not in front where the enemy expected them, behind. The ghost maneuver, that's what human soldiers would later call it, had studied the Concordat's patrol schedules, their sleep cycles, their communication delays. He knew exactly when they would be weakest. Human ships struck fast and hard. They destroyed supply lines, communication stations, and command vessels. Before the Concordat could turn their massive fleet around, the humans vanished back into folded space. The screamed with rage when he received the reports. How did they know where to strike? How did they escape so quickly? His advisors had no answers. Nothing in their 100,000 years of history had prepared them for this kind of warfare. The pattern continued across the galaxy. Human fleets appeared where they shouldn't be, struck targets they shouldn't know about, and disappeared before anyone could catch them. The Concordat's great armada chased shadows while humanity nibbled away at its edges. Meanwhile, more species joined the free world's coalition. The archivists, those ancient beings of pure energy, calculated the mathematical certainty of Concordat defeat. They were logical creatures. They saw which way the war was going. "We wish to negotiate separate peace," their leader announced to Admiral during a secret meeting. "We will not fight alongside the anymore." Studied the floating crystal carefully. "Your kind designed the veil. You helped imprison us for a century." "Yes," the archivist's light flickered with something that might have been shame. "We calculated that you were a threat. Our calculations were incorrect. And now we calculate that you will win, not because you are stronger, not because you have more ships, but because you adapt in ways we cannot understand. You change faster than our models can predict." Nodded slowly. "If you want peace, prove it. Open your archives. Share everything you know about Concordat defenses, troop movements, weaknesses. Then we'll talk." The archivists agreed. Suddenly, humanity had access to 100,000 years of Concordat secrets. The tide of war shifted dramatically. One by one, Concordat species surrendered or switched sides. This great alliance crumbled like old paper. After 7 years of fighting, only the remained standing against humanity. Filled with desperation and hatred, they made his final decision. "If we cannot defeat the humans," he declared, "we will destroy what they love most. All remaining ships will strike at Earth. We will burn there to ash." The entire fleet, 300,000 vessels, began the journey to Sol system. Admiral received the warning from archivist spies. His face went pale. They're going for Earth. Was already running calculations. If we quantum fold now, we can beat them there, but it will be close. Then we fold now, every ship we have. The race to Earth became the most desperate moment in human history. The fleet was massive, filled with weapons that could crack planets. Humanity's defense grid was strong, but it had never faced anything like this. For 72 hours, the Battle of Sol raged across the solar system. Ships exploded like fireworks against the black sky. Humanity's Mars colonies fired their massive defense cannons. Europa's shipyards launched everything they had. They pushed forward with terrifying determination. They didn't care about losses. They didn't care about strategy. They only wanted to destroy the world that had humiliated them. On the third day, this flagship, the Eternal Dominion, broke through Earth's outer defenses. The massive vessel began charging its planet-killer weapon. Admiral watched from the bridge of the Vengeance. All ships, concentrate fire on that flagship. Thousands of human weapons struck the Eternal Dominion, but its shields held. The planet-killer was almost charged. Then's voice crackled through the communication system. Admiral, I have an idea, but it's crazy. Everything we've done has been crazy. What is it? I can pilot a small ship through their shield grid. There's a frequency gap, tiny, but big enough. If I can get inside and destroy their shield generators manually. You'll die, said flatly. Was quiet for a moment. Maybe, but if that weapon fires, 8 billion people die. My life for 8 billion, that's easy math, Admiral. Before could argue, had already launched her shuttle. Her small vessel danced through the battle like a leaf in a storm. Gunners tried to shoot her down, but she flew with impossible skill, using patterns so random that no targeting computer could predict her path. She found the gap in the shields, a tiny window that flickered open for just half a second at a time. With perfect timing, she slipped through. Inside the flagship, alarms screamed as her shuttle crashed into the shield generator chamber. Climbed out of the wreckage, armed with only a plasma cutter and a bag of explosives. Soldiers rushed toward her. She fought them with everything she had, taking wounds that would have killed a lesser person. But she kept moving. She had to. The shield generators were massive machines, pulsing with power. Planted her explosives at their base, set the timer and smiled. This is for Earth, she whispered. This is for everyone you threw away. The explosion ripped through the Eternal Dominion. Its shields collapsed. A moment later, human weapons tore the flagship apart. The died never understanding how a species he had called unfit had defeated everything he believed in. Shuttle was found drifting in the wreckage. Against all odds, she was still alive, barely. Medical ships rushed her to Earth's finest hospital. When she woke up 3 weeks later, Admiral was sitting beside her bed. His eyes were wet with tears. We won, he said softly. They have surrendered, the war is over. Smiled weakly. Good, what happens now? Took her hand. Now we build something better, something worth fighting for. Outside the hospital window, Earth shone blue and green under the sun. Humanity had survived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The guns fell silent across the galaxy. After 7 years of war and over a century of isolation, humanity had achieved the impossible. The Concordat was no more. But Admiral had never wanted conquest. He had never wanted power. He had only wanted what was stolen from humanity so long ago, the right to exist among the stars. In the year 2360, representatives from 47 species gathered on Earth. Humans, Nereids, even the surrendered archivists they all came to a rebuilt city called New Geneva. There, in a great hall made of glass and light, they would build something new. Now 76 years old, stood at the podium. His white hair caught the sunlight streaming through the windows. Behind him, A flag of blue, green, and stars hung beside the banners of every free species. 113 years ago, he began, I was not yet born when the Concordat sealed my ancestors away. They called humans unfit. They called us dangerous. They said we would never amount to anything. He paused, looking across the gathered representatives. They were wrong, but not in the way you might think. The hall grew quiet, everyone listened. We were dangerous, we still are. Humans have always been capable of terrible things: war, cruelty, destruction. The Concordat was right to fear what we might become, shook his head slowly. But they made a mistake. They only saw our darkness, they never saw our light. He gestured toward the windows, where crowds of all species had gathered to witness the ceremony. When they threw us into prison, we could have given up. We could have destroyed ourselves with hatred. Instead, we chose to become better. We united. We built. We dreamed of a day when we could prove that all species deserve a chance to reach for the stars. Straightened his old shoulders. We do not seek to rule you. We do not want to be your masters. The Concordat built a galaxy of masters and slaves. We want to build something different, a galaxy of equals. A galaxy where no voice is silenced, where no species is told they are unfit, where everyone has the right to grow and learn and become whatever they dream of becoming. He stepped back from the podium. Today we create the Galactic Assembly, not a human government, not a Concordat rebuilt, a new beginning, a chance for all of us. The hall erupted in applause. Tears flowed freely, tears of joy, of relief, of hope. The Assembly's charter was signed that day by every species present. Its principles were simple: equality for all, freedom for all, justice for all. No species would ever again be sealed away. No species would ever again be judged unfit. 6 months later, the Assembly held its first election for High Chancellor, the leader who would guide the new galactic government. To everyone's surprise, the winner was not human. Had refused to run. She said she had done enough. But when the votes were counted, her name stood at the top. Species that had once been slaves voted for her. Species that had once ruled empires voted for her. Even the remaining, humbled and seeking redemption, cast their votes for the woman who had saved Earth. I didn't ask for this, said when she received the news. Admiral, now retired, smiled at her. None of us asked for any of this. That's usually how the best leaders are found. They're chosen by others, not by themselves. Inauguration was held on the nexus of eternity, the same station where humanity had been condemned so long ago. She walked down the same corridors, past the same council chamber where her ancestors had been judged unworthy. Now every seat was filled with free beings who had chosen to follow her. I stand here today, she announced, as the first High Chancellor of the Galactic Assembly. I am human. I am also Nereid and every other species represented here. Because that is what this assembly means. We are no longer separate peoples. We are one family. She looked up at the ceiling, where new decorations had been added. Among the flags of ancient species, a blue and green banner now flew proudly. My ancestors were told they were nothing. They were cast out and abandoned, but they refused to accept that judgment. They survived. They grew. They learned to shine in the darkness. Her voice grew stronger. And when they finally emerged, they did not seek revenge. They did not build a new empire of fear. They shared their light with everyone they met. They lifted up the fallen. They freed the enslaved. They proved that the measure of a species is not how it treats those above it, but how it treats those below. She opened her arms wide. This is humanity's gift to the galaxy, not weapons, not conquest. Simply this, the belief that everyone deserves a chance, the belief that no one is unfit, the belief that together we can build something beautiful. The assembly rose to their feet, cheering. Years passed. The galaxy healed. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years learned to work together. Trade routes opened. Knowledge was shared. Children from different worlds played together, learning that their differences made them stronger. On Earth, monuments were built to remember those who had suffered. The Century of Tears was taught in every school so that future generations would understand the cost of isolation and fear. But the monuments also celebrated hope, the hope that had kept humanity alive through the darkest times. Admiral died peacefully at the age of 92, surrounded by friends and family. His final words were a quote from his grandmother, Sarah, who had cracked the secrets of the veil. The stars were always meant to be shared. Served as High Chancellor for 20 years before stepping down. She spent her remaining days teaching young leaders from every species, passing on the lessons humanity had learned through suffering and triumph. One day, many years after the war, a hatchling visited a memorial on her. The memorial showed humans and standing together, hands and claws joined. She looked up at her grandmother with curious compound eyes. "Who are these creatures?" she asked, pointing at the strange two-legged figures. Her grandmother clicked her mandibles softly and lifted the child so she could see better. "They are humans, little one. Long ago, the galaxy threw them away. The powerful ones called them unfit and locked them in a cage." "That's mean," the child said. Yes, it was, very mean, but the humans didn't give up. They spent many, many years in their cage, and they used that time to become stronger and wiser. They learned to work together. They learned to never give up. Then what happened? The grandmother's eyes grew distant, remembering old stories passed down through generations. Then they broke free, and when they came out, they didn't try to hurt the ones who had hurt them. Instead, they freed everyone who was trapped. They freed our people. They freed many, many others. They taught the galaxy that no one is unfit, that everyone deserves a chance. The child thought about this for a long moment. They sound brave. They were, they are. The grandmother set the child down gently. Remember this, little one. When the humans were thrown into the darkness and told to die, they learned to shine. And when they returned, they shared their light with all of us. That is the kind of species they are. That is why we call them friends. The child looked up at the memorial one more time. Somewhere among the stars, humans and 100 other species were building a future together. A future where no one would ever be abandoned again. The galaxy had cast humanity out. Humanity had returned, commanding not through fear but through love. And the stars had never been brighter.